Cruise passengers are making mistakes right now that are costing them hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. Some people are missing cruises before they even reach the ship. Others are getting denied boarding over simple mistakes they never expected. And many are showing up with items cruise lines suddenly banned, only to find out at security. And one mistake before you even board can quietly ruin your entire vacation. Because cruising has changed fast. Airlines changed. Cruise rules changed. Travel scams changed. And if you're still cruising the old way, you could run into problems you never saw coming. You'll see airport delays, crowded cruise terminals, sold-out reservations, and passengers struggling with boarding passes and Wi-Fi issues all happening on day one. Today, we're covering 15 huge cruise mistakes passengers are making right now. And the last ones are the mistakes experienced cruisers never risk. Welcome back, everybody. If you love cruise tips, cruise hacks, and smart travel advice, make sure you subscribe for more cruise travel insights. Now let's jump right in. Mistake 1. Dragging large luggage around the ship. One of the biggest mistakes cruise passengers make on embarkation day is trying to carry all of their large luggage onto the ship themselves. A lot of people think this sounds smart because they don't want to wait for their bags to arrive at the cabin later. But once they actually get on board, reality hits fast. Cruise ships are crowded on day one. Elevators are packed. Hallways are busy. The buffet becomes complete chaos within minutes. And dragging giant suitcases through crowded public areas quickly turns the start of your vacation into a stressful workout. You'll actually see passengers sweating, bumping into people, blocking elevators, and struggling to maneuver huge bags through packed Lido deck crowds while everyone else is trying to relax and explore the ship. Experienced cruisers almost never do this. Instead, they hand their larger luggage to the porters immediately and carry only a smaller embarkation day bag with their essentials. And this part is important because your checked luggage may not arrive at your cabin for several hours. So your carry-on should always include your passport, medication, chargers, sunscreen, a swimsuit, and at least one change of clothes. Because nothing feels worse than standing beside the pool on day one, while your swimsuit is still somewhere inside a luggage cart below deck. And the next mistake is causing passengers major problems before they even find their cabin. Mistake 2. Not taking screenshots of important travel info. A lot of cruise passengers assume their phone will handle everything automatically during embarkation day. Boarding passes are in the app. Excursion tickets are online. Hotel confirmations are in email. Sounds simple until the Wi-Fi stops working at exactly the wrong moment. And for some reason, cruise terminals are one of the worst places for reliable internet. Passengers constantly run into loading screens that freeze, QR codes that refuse to scan, and cruise apps that suddenly log them out while hundreds of people are standing behind them in line. That stress builds fast. And the worst part is that most of it is completely avoidable. Experienced cruisers prepare for bad internet before they leave home. They screenshot everything. That includes boarding passes, excursion tickets, luggage tags, hotel reservations, passport information, and even the daily cruise schedule. Because once you have screenshots saved directly on your phone, you don't need Wi-Fi to access them. And there's another smart travel hack most passengers still overlook. Before your cruise, download offline Google Maps for your cruise ports, along with translation apps and port maps. That way, even without internet service, you can still navigate unfamiliar cities without getting lost or wasting expensive mobile data roaming charges. Because the last thing you want in a foreign cruise port is depending on a signal that suddenly disappears. Mistake 3. Waiting too long to book dining and excursions. One of the fastest ways to disappoint yourself on a cruise is waiting too long to reserve specialty dining or shore excursions. A lot of passengers still assume they can just board the ship and figure everything out later. But modern cruising doesn't really work that way anymore. On many cruise lines, the best restaurants, the best dining times, and the most popular excursions can sell out days, sometimes even weeks, before the ship ever leaves port. And passengers don't realize this until they finally connect to the ship's Wi-Fi, open the app, and see nothing but sold out across the screen. Suddenly, that steakhouse they wanted? Gone. That private beach excursion? Gone. That sunset dining reservation? Also gone. This is especially common now on cruise lines offering dining packages, because passengers reserve multiple restaurants in advance the moment bookings open. Experienced cruisers know the smartest strategy is simple. Book something early, even if the time isn't perfect, even if the day isn't ideal. Because once you already have a reservation in the system, it becomes much easier to modify it on board than trying to compete for completely sold-out availability later. And many passengers are shocked by how often guest services or restaurant staff can help rearrange reservations once you're actually on board the ship. And later in this video, I'll show you the mistake that can make your cruise photos disappear forever. Mistake 4. Booking the cheapest flights possible. Trying to save money on flights before a cruise sounds smart, until one delay completely destroys the entire vacation. This is one of the most expensive cruise mistakes passengers still make. A lot of travelers book the absolute cheapest airfare they can find without realizing how risky those flights can actually become. Especially now, when airports are more crowded, delays are more common, and tight flight connections can fall apart incredibly fast. And cruise ships will not wait for delayed passengers. One missed flight connection can literally cause someone to miss an entire cruise departure. And unfortunately, this happens more often than people think. Passengers book ultra-basic economy tickets with impossible layovers, no luggage flexibility, terrible boarding positions, and almost zero protection when delays happen. Then one late arrival turns the airport into pure chaos. People running through terminals, panic at customer service desks, flights closing minutes before passengers arrive. And suddenly the cruise vacation they planned for months starts turning into a travel nightmare before they even reach the port. Experienced cruisers almost always reduce this risk by flying in at least one day early. And for international cruises, many experienced travelers prefer arriving 2 days early whenever possible, because one extra hotel night is far cheaper than missing a cruise ship entirely. Mistake 5. Ignoring cruise price drops. One of the most frustrating cruise mistakes passengers make is overpaying for a cruise without even realizing they could have saved hundreds of dollars. And the crazy part is, many cruise lines actually allow price adjustments before final payment. But most passengers never check. After booking their cruise, they simply stop paying attention to pricing completely. Meanwhile, cruise fares can quietly fluctuate for weeks or even months depending on demand, promotions, and cabin availability. And sometimes the exact same cabin suddenly drops in price. That means passengers who already booked could potentially qualify for lower fares, onboard credit, cabin upgrades, or even better room categories. But none of that happens automatically. In many cases, passengers have to call the cruise line or contact their travel agent to request the adjustment. And experienced cruisers do this regularly. Some travelers have saved hundreds of dollars with one simple phone call before their final payment date. Others received upgraded cabins for nearly the same price they originally paid. That's why smart cruisers continue monitoring prices even after they book their vacation. Because nothing feels worse than boarding your cruise, then discovering the passenger next door paid less money for a better cabin than you did. Mistake 6. Assuming cruise loyalty programs still work the same. A lot of cruise passengers assume loyalty programs work the same way they did a few years ago. But cruise lines have quietly been changing rules, perks, and qualification systems, and many travelers don't realize it until they lose benefits they thought they still had. Some cruise lines are now offering status matching between brands, while others are changing how rewards are earned entirely. And if you haven't checked your cruise line's newest updates recently, you could easily miss important deadlines or registration requirements. One passenger thought their loyalty perks would automatically transfer into a new rewards program after years of cruising with the same company. But after boarding, they discovered they never completed the required registration before the deadline. That meant no upgraded benefits, no priority perks, and none of the rewards they expected during the cruise. And these changes are happening across multiple cruise lines right now. Some passengers are missing crossover benefits between sister cruise brands. Others don't realize certain loyalty perks now require app activation or enrollment. Experienced cruisers now treat loyalty programs almost like airline programs. They constantly monitor changes, read update emails carefully, and double-check their status before every sailing. Because cruise lines are evolving fast. And assuming the old rules still apply can quietly cost you valuable perks you already earned. You might think these mistakes are frustrating, but the next few are the ones that can completely derail your vacation. especially the mistake that's exposing cruise passengers to scams they never saw coming. And some travelers don't even realize they've been targeted until after their cruise is already booked. Mistake 7. Posting cruise plans publicly online. One of the most dangerous cruise mistakes passengers are making right now has nothing to do with the ship itself. It starts online. One cruiser joined a Facebook group for their upcoming sailing just to meet other passengers before the trip. A few days later, someone contacted them pretending to be from the cruise line. But here's the scary part. The scammer already knew the ship name, the sail date, the cabin category, and several booking details. Everything sounded legitimate. And that's exactly why these scams are becoming so dangerous. A lot of passengers unknowingly share too much information online without realizing how easily scammers can piece everything together from cruise countdown posts, Facebook groups, luggage tag photos, or screenshots of boarding documents. Even something as simple as posting your boarding pass online can expose QR codes or booking information that should never be public. And fake cruise agents are getting more convincing every year. Some scammers create fake customer service accounts. Others join cruise Facebook groups pretending to be experienced travelers offering help. Experienced cruisers are becoming much more careful about what they post publicly before a trip. Because once your personal travel details are online, you lose control over who can see them. And in some cases, scammers only need a few small details to create a very believable trap. Mistake 8. Bringing newly banned cruise items. A lot of cruise passengers are showing up at the terminal with gadgets and travel items they bought specifically for their cruise, only to watch security confiscate them before they ever board the ship. And many people are shocked when it happens, because cruise lines have been quietly updating their prohibited items lists much more aggressively over the last few years. Some items that used to be common cruise hacks are now completely banned on many ships. Wi-Fi routers are one example. Passengers started bringing them on board to share internet packages across multiple devices, and now several cruise lines no longer allow them at all. And it doesn't stop there. Certain extension cords, surge protectors, high-powered charging devices, and even some smart glasses now face restrictions on certain ships. You'll actually see tables near security filled with confiscated items passengers assumed were completely harmless. And sometimes the rule differences between cruise lines create even more confusion. Something allowed on one cruise line may be banned on another. That's why experienced cruisers always check the cruise line's most recent prohibited items list before packing. Because some cruise lines can deny items over something as small as the wrong power strip. And finding that out at the security checkpoint is not how you want your vacation to begin. Mistake 9. Waiting until after the cruise to complain. One of the biggest mistakes cruise passengers make is staying silent during the cruise, and then complaining online after the vacation is already over. And unfortunately, by that point, there's very little the cruise line can actually do to help. A lot of passengers avoid speaking up because they don't want to seem difficult or confrontational, so they tolerate problems for days. A noisy cabin, missing luggage, bad dining experiences, broken air conditioning, or service issues they hoped would somehow improve on their own. But experienced cruisers understand something important. Cruise staff want the chance to fix problems while you're still on board. Cabin attendants, restaurant managers, guest services, and supervisors all have the ability to solve issues much faster during the cruise itself. And in many cases, the solution is easier than passengers expect. A cabin change, a dining adjustment, a replacement item, extra housekeeping, a refund, or onboard credit. But once the cruise ends, the cruise line loses the opportunity to correct the situation in real time. That's why smart passengers address problems calmly and early instead of letting frustration build throughout the trip. Because complaining later on social media might get attention, but it usually doesn't improve the vacation you already finished. Mistake 10. Booking flights too close to embarkation or disembarkation. This mistake creates some of the most stressful travel moments cruise passengers ever experience. People sprinting through airports, boarding gates closing, panic at customer service counters, and in worst-case scenarios, passengers literally watching their cruise ship leave without them. And sometimes all it takes is one small flight delay. One passenger missed their entire cruise after a connecting flight arrived just 47 minutes late. That delay caused them to miss embarkation by minutes. And cruise ships operate on strict schedules. They cannot simply wait for delayed passengers. But travelers still book extremely risky flight schedules, trying to save money or maximize vacation time. Tight layovers. Early morning embarkation flights. Return flights scheduled dangerously close to disembarkation. And everything looks fine until one delay triggers a chain reaction. Experienced cruisers almost always build large buffer windows into their travel plans. That means avoiding risky layovers, arriving at the cruise port city at least one day early, and booking return flights no earlier than noon whenever possible. Because cruise travel becomes dramatically less stressful when you stop treating every flight connection like a race against the clock. And the next mistake may become one of the biggest cruise travel hacks of the next decade. Mistake 11. Not using AI and travel apps in cruise ports. One of the biggest cruise travel hacks passengers are still overlooking may actually become the future of cruising itself. And that's using AI and travel apps while exploring cruise ports. A lot of travelers still walk off the ship relying only on paper maps, random Google searches, or crowded tour groups. But modern AI tools can now help passengers navigate ports in ways that were almost impossible just a few years ago. This feels like having a personal tour guide in your pocket. Passengers are now using AI tools to translate signs instantly, discover hidden attractions, find highly rated local restaurants, build custom walking routes, and even get historical explanations while standing in front of landmarks. Instead of just looking at a statue or historic building without context, travelers can now upload a photo and immediately learn the story behind it. And when you're in unfamiliar cities, that becomes incredibly valuable. AI tools can also help avoid tourist traps by suggesting less crowded areas, faster routes back to the ship, and personalized itineraries based on your interests and available time in port. Experienced cruisers are starting to use these tools constantly during their vacations. Because cruise ports become much more enjoyable when you stop wandering randomly and start exploring with real-time guidance customized specifically for you. Mistake 12. Not packing an embarkation survival kit. One of the smartest things experienced cruisers do before boarding the ship is preparing what many travelers completely forget: an embarkation survival kit. Because once you hand your luggage to the porters, you may not see those bags again for several hours, and sometimes even longer. One passenger waited nearly 8 hours before their luggage finally arrived outside the cabin door. Meanwhile, everyone else was already enjoying the pools, eating lunch, changing outfits, and relaxing on board. That's why experienced cruisers always pack a smaller carry-on bag with everything they may need during the first part of the cruise. And surprisingly, this small habit can dramatically reduce embarkation day stress. Your survival kit should include a swimsuit, flip-flops, medication, a portable charger, sunscreen, deodorant, and at least one extra shirt or lightweight change of clothes. Because embarkation day can get hot, crowded, and exhausting very quickly. And nothing ruins the excitement faster than sweating through the first few hours of your vacation while all your essentials are locked somewhere inside a suitcase you can't access yet. Experienced cruisers prepare for those first few hours before they even board the ship, and it makes the start of the vacation feel dramatically smoother. Mistake 13. Overpacking for cruises. Almost every cruise passenger believes they'll wear far more outfits than they actually do. And that's exactly why overpacking is still one of the most common cruise mistakes people make. Passengers arrive with giant suitcases packed with just-in-case clothes, only to discover they wear the same few comfortable outfits most of the trip anyway. Then suddenly the cabin starts feeling tiny. Closets overflow. Suitcases block walkways. And somehow there are still outfits that never even leave the hangar. You'll actually see people unpacking enough clothes for what looks like a 3-month vacation, even though the cruise only lasts 7 days. And experienced cruisers quietly do the opposite. They pack lighter, rewear certain shoes, reuse jackets, and bring versatile formal wear basics that work for multiple evenings on board. Because cruise cabins are not huge, and dragging around extra luggage creates stress before the vacation even begins. One of the funniest things many travelers realize after their cruise is how many outfits they packed, just in case, that they never touched once. Meanwhile, the passengers who packed lighter move through airports easier, unpack faster, and enjoy embarkation day with far less frustration. Because smart cruise packing is not about bringing more. It's about bringing smarter. Mistake 14. Forgetting cruise photos disappear after disembarkation. One mistake cruise passengers make every year is assuming they can buy their cruise photos after they get home. And then suddenly, the photos are gone. A lot of cruise lines now display professional cruise photos directly inside the cruise app, which makes passengers think those images will stay there permanently after the vacation ends. But that's usually not how it works. Once passengers disembark, many cruise lines remove access to those photos almost immediately. And people often don't realize this until they're already sitting at the airport trying to log back into the app. Then suddenly, the gallery disappears. The images are unavailable, and customer service can no longer recover them. That's especially frustrating after formal nights, family photos, or once-in-a-lifetime vacation moments. Passengers constantly assume, "I'll just buy them later." But later becomes too late very quickly. Experienced cruisers know to review and purchase any photos they want before the final night of the cruise whenever possible. Because once the cruise ends, access to those memories can disappear much faster than people expect. And many passengers don't realize the mistake until the vacation is already over. Mistake 15. Treating embarkation day like a relaxing vacation day. One of the biggest differences between experienced cruisers and first-time passengers is how they approach embarkation day. Because experienced cruisers understand something important. Embarkation day is not the relaxing part of the vacation. It's the setup phase. And passengers who treat it like a slow, stress-free resort day often create unnecessary chaos for themselves within the first few hours on board. Embarkation day is crowded, confusing, overstimulating, and extremely busy. Thousands of passengers are boarding at the same time. Cabins may not be ready yet. Elevators become packed. Restaurants get overwhelmed. And everyone is trying to figure out the ship all at once. That's why experienced cruisers move strategically instead of emotionally on day one. They arrive early. Stay flexible. Avoid the crowded buffet rush. Unpack immediately once cabins open. Handle reservations quickly. And explore the ship before everything becomes even busier later in the afternoon. Because the first few hours on board often determine whether your cruise starts stressful or starts smoothly. Passengers who prepare mentally for embarkation day usually settle into vacation mode much faster, while everyone else is still overwhelmed, lost, standing in lines, or dragging luggage through crowded hallways trying to figure out where everything is. And experienced cruisers know that starting the cruise smoothly often makes the entire vacation feel better from the very beginning. Cruises are supposed to feel relaxing, but the passengers who enjoy them the most usually are not the ones spending the most money. They're the ones who avoid the small mistakes that quietly create big problems later. Because on a cruise, it's usually not one massive disaster that ruins the vacation. It's the little things. The missed flight connection, the sold-out reservation, the luggage mistake, the bad planning, the scam nobody saw coming. The simple travel decision that creates unnecessary stress before the vacation even really begins. And the difference between a stressful cruise and an amazing cruise is often just preparation. Experienced cruisers understand that. They know how to avoid the crowds. They know how to avoid the expensive mistakes. And they know how to make embarkation day feel smooth instead of chaotic. And now you do too. So before your next cruise, come back to this video, use these tips, and give yourself the kind of vacation that actually feels relaxing from day one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future cruise tips, cruise hacks, travel updates, and the newest cruise changes happening right now. And if you want to know the newest cruise rules, banned items, hidden fees, and travel changes passengers are getting surprised by right now, watch this next video right here.